You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
All right, podcast listeners, I am here today minus Chadwick Johnson. As you know, he's traveling to Hawaii to speak at an event there. So I am the lone host of Everyday Practices today, and I'm here today with two brilliant women in dentistry. One I get to work with all the time, Victoria Peterson, and the other I'm just getting to know, Dr. Grace Yum. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yay! The reason I wanted to interview you both together is because, Grace, you are hosting the Mommy Dentists in Business CEO Roundtable coming up in Chicago, and Victoria is going to be speaking there. So before we jump into all of that, Dr. Yum, will you tell us a little bit about your dental practice and what inspired Mommy Dentists in Business Group?
Sure, absolutely. I am a board-certified pediatric dentist here in Chicago and have been practicing since 2003, but was a dental assistant way before that. So in the dental field for over 25 years. The two practices that I own, one is in the city. It's been open for 10 years. The second location is in the suburbs, and that has been open for 5 years. And now I'm on my new venture, having founded a group called Mommy Dentists in Business, and it's a closed private Facebook group. We have over 6,600 members.
Wow. And there in that group, there are some strict rules to that, right? I am not allowed in this group. I am not a dentist. I am a mommy. So can you tell us about some of the rules to get into this group? That's a lot of mommy dentists in one group, Grace.
Yes, there are. It's funny how when one has an idea and if it fills a void and it's a niche group, it fills quickly. I had no idea there were 6,000 plus moms in dentistry. We are looking for practicing dentists and obviously moms. And in business is kind of a loose term. Traditionally, one would think you're a practice owner, but I've come to know and realize in business could mean that you are a practicing dentist. However, you may run the community center, or you may run a dental program at the jailhouse, or you may run and operate a DSO. So there are many ways that dentists can be in business, and it doesn't have to mean the traditional sense of owning a small private practice.
Oh, I love that. I just got little tingles on my arm. Grace, was part of that discovery and journey what led you to wanting to hold a CEO roundtable?
Yes. So just to rewind, I started this group in 2017, June, and kind of did an experiment. It was more of like a social experiment, really. And as the group grew, people were saying, hey, we should have a podcast, or hey, we should meet up, and hey, we should do this. So I spent 2018 running events and podcasts and webinars and all kinds of things. And we basically threw pasta on the wall to see what would stick.
I like that.
One of yes, it's a good analogy, actually, just because I am not in the events business. I am not an expert in running and hosting events or webinars. And so I'm just figuring all this out. So 2018, 2019 was just our experimental year of running different kinds of events. However, the ideas popped up to fill a need. So if the moms in the group said, we want to learn more about this, or we would like to meet and learn about this, that's where the ideas populated. It wasn't something that I just thought of on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
And so the CEO Roundtable was something last year that I did where the criteria was that you had to be a practice owner and you had to be $1 million practice growth. And it brought together a small group of women that had a connection and common denominator of practice owner and $1 million plus gross revenues. So right there brought a lot of powerhouses, and we had about 25 women come. We brought in speakers, especially in the areas of practice management, wealth management, real estate, retirement, things that business owners think of and need. And then we also had our own roundtable discussion. The feedback I got was that one day was too short and that we should make it a 2-day event. Mm-hmm. And so this year we are making it a 2-day event with different speakers and different topics, and just having the ability to come together and having masterminds share best practices is my goal. And I think a lot of women want to do that with one another because you hear of men dentists doing it all the time. So I figured, why not have our own CEO Roundtable 2-day discussion, and who better to come than Victoria? So I'm excited that you will be attending our second CEO Roundtable.
Oh, that is absolutely gorgeous. To let some of these listeners in, I belong to a women's organization as well. And previous to joining that group, I've never really paid attention to gender very much. In fact, I was kind of a tomboy growing up. So I was like, oh, what difference is it going to make? For me personally, it's been life-changing, different to be involved with women with similar careers that I can relate to. So Grace, do you feel like there are true differences in the way that men and women approach business and the benefits of a women-only group like this and how that plays into their success?
I do and I don't. There are many differences, but there's also many commonalities, and I know that doesn't really help your answer, but I do feel that women tend to, or actually, not just my opinion, but research also shows that women in the workforce don't demand as much money, they don't negotiate their salaries, and they're less likely to push back when it comes to their bosses. And so that tells me that women tend to shy away from confrontation in general. I'm not saying that all women do, but there is a difference because we should come together and encourage each other to be each other's advocates and speak up, be loud, be demanding, and be more, I guess, not arrogant, but confident, assertive, aggressive. And it doesn't mean that you have to be arrogant to be those things. I think that women in dentistry for a long time have been a minority, and we are now becoming equal as far as numbers graduating dental school. And I think that all the pioneers that come before us, they had to go through a rough road. And I'm very happy to be in a place where I'm in the middle of my career and watching a change and a shift in dentistry when it comes to gender. But I do think that women do learn in a different kind of way. And I think having a different environment, having it being all women, would make it more of a safe space to be more vocal and share ideas, whereas they may be more intimidated if it were not so.
Ooh, I can't believe in like 10 minutes all the gold that our listeners are getting right now. Thank you, Grace. And this is a nice segue over to Victoria. Victoria, you founded PDA with Bruce 16 years ago, and you've always coached both male and female leaders. And we've noticed that over the past couple of years, female entrepreneurship has become a true focus of yours. Can you share with us why?
Yes, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, Grace. I mean, I'm obviously a mom. I'm not a dentist, but I created as an experiment. You'll love this, Grace, for fun. As a side gig, everybody's got their side hustle. So in addition to running productive dentists through like high growth times, I thought it would be fun to own a dental practice and doing things the way I do. I bought 3 on the same day. And within 6
Oh my
months,
God.
yeah, and then within 6 months we added 2 more. So buying
Wow.
dental practices is not like buying shoes. That'll be my first tip.
Buyer's remorse? No, just kidding.
You know what? I absolutely, I love it because I went through the experiment of it. And to answer your question, Reagan, do men and women operate differently? Absolutely. And it is imperative that we have a safe place to do that, because we've been operating in a male paradigm of leadership for the last 125 years. It was industrial revolution based, it's Sigma 6 and all of that, where you hear it in the vocabulary about maximizing human capital. Women don't think in terms of human capital. We think in terms of teammates and coworkers. And I think female leadership really does embrace foundations of humanity, that leaders are, we care for those that we're in charge, that are in our care and in our charge. I can't imagine standing up in the middle of a state board of dentistry meeting and say, hello, gentlemen, could we just embrace those that are in charge with our care? It's not going to happen. So I think there's a male framework of firmness that Grace was speaking to that has to happen. I also think that the paradigm that business is a fast track to freedom. If you do it like I did, I was just going to hustle my bustle and do it. I got to tell you, it turned into a mind trap really fast, and it depleted my energy. I lost clarity, and I felt anything but free. So what I'm real proud of, though, is that when I got into that around 2011, sold my last practice in 2018, I leveraged out with a 9x EBITDA. It was fabulous economically. So I learned a lot about real estate. I learned a lot about contract law. I learned a lot about insurances to protect yourself if you're a non-dentist owner. But mostly I learned a lot about my own personal operating system and came out with a lot more clarity.
Excellent. That is so great. 9 times EBITDA. Wow, that's unheard of. Or maybe that is heard of, but it's not common.
It's not common. And it was all in the way that it was set up. It was all in the way that it was set up. Yeah. So we can get into that if you want during the roundtable. I don't know if that's a specific topic. I think Reese Harper and others speak to wealth creation on a much more grounded level than I do. I think mine was by design, and whether it can be replicated, I think, yeah.
Well, I do know, Victoria, you're going to be sharing some speakers with roundtable guests, and that is a very closed, limited group of doctors, as Grace explained. Can you give us maybe step 1 of a little secret formula that you're going to share with folks in Chicago?
Sure. And again, I do think that business is a path to freedom. I think it is also a great spiritual journey for someone to take, because you come face to face with your fears, and you have to discover in that moment, what am I made of? What do I have faith in? What do I rest in? And so I think the first piece of the formula is to define your operating system. And it's not a term that I've heard a lot, but you think there's Android and there's iPhone, right? The operating systems are very differently. And we're taught to think about our vision and our agreements and our mission, but we don't really put a context around do I operate through love, through accountability? What's my lens that I'm operating through? So I have a limited time there, but I really want to dive a little deeper in helping female CEOs understand what's driving them and filling up their internal drivers so that external forces can't knock you over as easily.
Love it. I like that. That sounds great. And, as a dentist and having to operate businesses, dentistry really is a calling. I think that you can't just be a dentist and not love it. You'll burn out way too quickly.
Yeah.
But to actually touch people, heal people, do the technical work. As dentists, we are technicians. However, we have to also run the business if one is a business owner. And I'm finding as a location owner that my time is split, and I have to step away a little bit from clinical care to be able to operate the businesses. And then, taking it one step further and defining your operating system and who you are, that I think is your trademark. It's your business card across your practice, and the way you operate and what you're made of really shows through to your patients. It shows through to your staff, and women in general. We're relational people. We are filled with emotion. I'm not saying men aren't, but it's a different lens, like you said. And I think that if you have clarity on what your internal operating system is, it really shows through in your practice.
Wow. I have a question for both of you. If we could get up high in the helicopter and float above. I loved how you touched on administrative time versus clinical time and balancing all of that. For each of you, as you both inspire me and many men and women who are listening to this today, what are some ways in which you are helping women in your own companies to balance motherhood and career with your team members? Victoria, I'll ask you first.
I would have to ask you. I think some of our philosophies that we have throughout our companies, that we are very generous with family leave time, both for our men and our women. When new babies come, boy, we celebrate and we give you plenty of time. I know not everyone takes advantage of that. You, Reagan, really wanted to expand your role in the company, and I actually held you back for a year and said, no, this is your last baby. It's your year, be with Benny. So we're very pro-female in our workplace. We also encourage yoga and mindfulness and meditation. We encourage wellness days, not sick days. We create group activities where we're in nature and we're getting nurtured. So if we do a team building activity, it's usually outside or it's active, it's not in a building. So those are a few ways. And I think that we don't have a wage gap in our company. I think we treat people on their talents and their skills more so than their gender.
Wonderful. How about you, Grace?
Being in dentistry and pediatrics, we're almost all female. Actually, we are all female. And we have a running joke that if you want to have a baby, you drink the water at Yummy Dental. And
I'm bringing my own bottle to the conference, Grace.
Really, it's a running joke, and like even the spouses, even like our male doctors, their spouses all get pregnant. We've got a lot of families here, and we celebrate all of them and give them appropriate time as needed. But what's funny is that they all want to come back earlier than their maternity leave is over. So even though we allot like plenty of time for maternity leave, they'll call and be like, well, can I come like work this Saturday? Or can I come and work on a Wednesday? So it's funny because they love work and they love their patients and they want to come in sooner. So I take that as a compliment. But for me, having been in dentistry as a business owner for 10 years, I've really loved mentoring, and I have helped a lot of women along the way, and that's my way of giving back. And so I've got my first hygienist. I encouraged her to go to dental school, And I just ran into her at the Chicago Midwinter meeting, and she's a dentist now, and she practices in San Francisco.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, and she's been practicing for 3 years now, and I've got 3 dental assistants that are all in dental school at different dental schools. So there's D3, D2, D1. I had another hygienist who was in dental school, and I encouraged her to go into pediatrics, and she is graduating this June from the program I went to for my residency. So it's been, and 2 girls, 2 of my assistants went to hygiene school. They're both now hygienists. One has moved away, and the other one came back and worked for me. She's 2 years hygienist now, and she just is coming back from maternity leave. So it's been, for me, a career that's been filled with gratitude. It's been filled with just a lot of kind of love and care, and I'm very much a relational person. And I'm not saying that my road was all hunky-dory. Last summer, I had an office manager that I found lied to me and wrote off a $1,200 balance without telling me. And her daughter, who worked for me in the other office that I gave the opportunity to, also lied to me. So I had to terminate 2 people on the same day.
Ugh.
And it happened in the summer where, 12 weeks for pediatric dentists, we are on roller skates. I mean, it's our tax season time. And I asked my lawyer, can't we wait until the fall to terminate? He said, no, you can't. You have to terminate now. You're firing for cause. And that July, I was down $30,000 in production compared to the previous year. But when we closed out our books for the year, we came out ahead. So we made that up, hired all new, team members in addition to the ones that I terminated. We did like a whole set of hiring. And sometimes the people that bring you to the first 10 years may not be able to bring you to the next 10 years. And I had to do a deep dive and a deep kind of search. And even though it was sad for me to let go of people or see people leave, I've got a whole new team now filled with energy, and we are trucking along.
That's beautiful. Chad actually texted in a question, and I think that you mentioned that you went to, I know it's probably killing him that he's not on here. Sorry, Chad.
Chad will be staying at my house tonight. This is hilarious. I think he's actually in flight as he's texting.
Well, he sent 3 interview questions very quickly to me. You mentioned that you went to Chicago Midwinter, and he is dying to know, did anything stand out to you this year? And this sort of flows in with a question I had for both of you, which was, what are some of the trends you're spotting in dentistry right now, and how do you think that'll impact women? So was anything of interest in Chicago Midwinter? Anything stand out, Grace?
Well, actually, I was at the Star of the South in Houston for most of it, lecturing. It happened to be that the Star of the South meeting was the same time as Midwinter, and me being from Chicago, I never missed Midwinter. And I got home on a Friday night, and I was feeling so guilty that I didn't go. I got myself up on Saturday, took the kids and my mom, and we went to Midwinter at 12 o'clock on Saturday and stayed till 4 o'clock.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I had to go and see everybody that I could have left, and I did. I actually saw a lot of people. So I wasn't able to see anything as far as like products or anything like that because I didn't have the opportunity to do that. But I do have to say that one meeting I went to at the Yankee in February, I was speaking at the Yankee. There was a table now for PCH and oil and marijuana. And I think that's kind of like the next big thing in dentistry.
That is fantastic. Victoria, what are you seeing? What kind of trends are you seeing in dentistry today?
Well, I'm going to piggyback with Grace. Alternative pain medications, we'll call them, is a huge topic. I think that's one of the reasons why we are teaming with Elijah Desmond and his group at Smiles at Sea this October. Catherine Eitel is going to be talking about the impact of opioids on your family. There's topics on vaping. I think vaping is like the most evil thing that's ever come out, and it's just killing it. junior high students. You must be seeing a lot of that, Grace. So vaping, understanding how to deal with that, understanding how to deal with CBD. I have a lot of praise for. The THC, I kind of gave that up in the 70s, but there's so much to understand. And honestly, I'm like Bill Clinton. I probably never inhaled, but there's so much to understand about these. You kind of went from there's prescriptive and restricted and essential oils and St. John's works and nutritional supplements were kind of way out there. And now the way out there is way, way out there. I think it has a big impact. I also think that you combine that with a shortage of qualified people coming into dentistry, not dentists. We've got lots of dentists coming out, but the dental assistants, hygienists are okay, but the dental assistants, I'm really nervous that we're coming on a shortage of dental assistants and untrained office managers. I think the complexity administratively with insurances and the legalities and things like that, it's really amping up a business owner's risk and their sense of responsibility. And I don't know what you see on that, Grace.
I think that as far as like auxiliary team, I think one of the changes in a negative way, I see less and less qualified people, a lot of difficulties in interviewing and finding people, ghosting interviews. It's just been really hard. And I think that doctors have to build a better mousetrap in order to attain and retain. I know that a lot of big DSOs, they have huge HR companies with like 25 people working on recruiting. And when you're looking at a single practice owner, it's just the doctor and maybe one office manager recruiting. And to be able to compete, to, again, build a better mousetrap, it's going to take dollars to attract better team members to your practice.
Wow, those are two very strong points to look at. I have two more questions for you guys, and then we can wrap. I will honor our time today. Is there a book that's on your shelf, Grace, that you have referenced that you really like? And Victoria, then you next.
Yes, The Energy Buzz.
Oh, John Gordon?
Yes. I believe so, right? I feel like I have so many books on my shelf. I have so many books that I like go through. I read a chapter of this, chapter of that. But I really like that book, and then I really like The Girl Code, and that's been a really good book for me. And I think that you have to be true to yourself, and part of building a team is knowing what you want, right? And building people that are going to have share the same energy as you and see your outlook and be able to work at your level. I think that's really important. And I think when we start to say, oh, well, that's okay, they only fit like one criteria out of 4, and you settle, I think that's when you can get into a little bit of trouble. But when you interview hard, you can manage easy. And I find that to be really true.
Wonderful. I'm a huge Energy Buzz fan. I haven't read was it The Girl Code? The Woman Code? The Girl Code? I'm going to have to check that one out. Oh, Victoria, how about you?
I'm probably like Grace. I buy books by the dozens.
You've brought me most of my books, just for the record, everybody. If you go in our office, there is a whole library with amazing books.
I'm donating about 30 books this week to the used bookstore here so I can go stock up on more. I think one all-time favorite, though, for business owners is Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath, the Heath brothers. And
I have to get that.
Yeah, if you want a little prelude to it, you'll understand why Van Halen always insisted on having green M&Ms in their dressing room.
Okay.
Yes. It was, well, can I just share that, Reagan, real quick?
Of course, go ahead.
All right, so this is a true stealth move. They, deep in their contract, they buried a clause that said we must never have a green M&M. There must be no green M&Ms in our dressing room. And they buried it deep in the clause after all the pyrotechnical requirements and all the safety gear and everything that Van Halen needed to keep their band and the audience safe. And if they walked in and there was a green M&M in there, they would call the show, because they knew that the people setting it up didn't honor the contract and their safety might be at risk. So I love that book because it helps you understand your confirmation biases and how to really stand up for yourself in really honorable ways.
That's pretty awesome. That's a cool story.
We will put in the links to all of those books. Those are all good. And Audible's a good option too for doctors that want to do this on the treadmill.
Yeah, I do Audible all the time.
Oh, I would love to see your library. Okay, we talk later. One last question for both of you. This is a hard one. Put your thinking cap on. Gut reaction, Grace?
Yeah.
Bacon or eggs?
Eggs.
Eggs. We got an eggs. Oh, Victoria, creator of Everyday Practices, original co-host. I don't think I've heard your answer. You've got
it's bacon. I'm a bacon loving vegetarian. Yes.
Same as my son, Ben. Listeners have heard me say this before. My 5-year-old is a self-proclaimed vegetarian. I don't know why. He comes from a strong line of carnivorous family members, but he will eat bacon. He eats it with a guilty face, and he says, it's just so good.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Oh,
so good.
Thank you both so much for your time. It has been my absolute honor. You both inspire me, and I'm thrilled for everyone who gets to listen to this and continued impact that Mommy Dentists in Business is going to have on the world. More female dentists coming into practice every single day, and you guys are on the forefront as leaders. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with Everyday Practices.